Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Cat Monarch, and once again I'm going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! But things are a bit different, so let me steal some of your time with a guide to Time Thieves. As a quick overview, Time Thieves are an Xyz focused archetype of everyone's favourite rank, 4. The main deck consists of level 4 dark monsters, which are either psychic or machine type, and the extra deck consists of rank 4 psychic monsters. So, let's go over the card by card and start in the main deck. First off, we have Time Thief Regulator. It is a machine with 600 attack and 200 defense. If you control no other monsters, tribute this card and special summon 2 Time Thieves from your deck with different names. When an Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, but banish it if it leaves the field. This card is the normal summon for the deck. It is an instant rank 4, which triggers the on-summon effects of our next 2 cards for even more advantage. Time Thief Winder is a psychic type monster with 1800 attack and 1300 defense. It can summon itself by detaching material from an Xyz monster you control. If it is normal or special summoned, you can search for a Time Thief card except itself from your deck. This card searches the entire archetype, and it is by far the best Time Thief to summon off of Regulator's effect. Next, we have Time Thief Adjuster, which is a psychic monster with 1200 attack and 1800 defense. If a Time Thief monster is normal or special summoned to your field, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, or normal summoned, you can send a Time Thief card from your deck to the graveyard. This provides important graveyard setup for your spell and trap card effects, as well as one of your other monsters, and is very easy to summon. It's the other monster you want to summon using Regulator's effect. The only real downside is that you can only use one of its effects per turn. Time Thief Bezel Ship is next. It is a machine with 1000 attack and 2000 defense. You contribute this card to attach one card from your opponent's graveyard to a Time Thief Xyz monster you control. While this card is in the graveyard, you can detach a material from an Xyz monster you control to special summon this card from the graveyard, but banish it if it leaves the field. This is probably the best monster to send with Adjuster's effect. It is an easy to summon extra level 4 monster on the field, which can then either be used as Xyz material or as disruption. Time Thief Chronocoder is a machine with 1000 attack and defense. You contribute this card so that your opponent takes the first damage that they would deal you during their battle phase. If an Xyz monster you control leaves the field by a card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it if it leaves the field. Your Time Thieves tag in and out of play, which makes this an okay battle phase effect. It is also just another level 4 monster, which is a Time Thief, and can summon itself relatively easily. With the monsters covered, let's show you the spells and traps which help with setup and with payoff. Time Thief Startup is a quick play spell which special summons a Time Thief monster from your hand. Its effect in the graveyard is that you can banish it to attach to a Time Thief Xyz monster, one Time Thief monster, spell and trap card from your graveyard to it as Xyz material. It has the same restrictions as Adjuster, where you only get one effect per turn and only once that turn. It is a great card to ensure that you get an Xyz on the field in the first place, and it gives both Redoer and Double Barrel all 3 effects instantly without too much setup. Time Thief Hack is a continuous spell which protects Xyz monsters you control from being targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects during the turn they are special summoned. It can also boost the attack of an Xyz monster you control by 300 per material attached to it at the activation of this card until the end phase. It also allows the boosted monster to attack directly if it has an opponent's card as Xyz material. It's meant to give Redoer an extra kick, but is pretty good protection for playing into an established board. Time Thief Flyback is a normal trap which attaches a Time Thief card from your hand or deck to a Time Thief Xyz monster you control.
Its effect in the graveyard is that you can banish it to attach a card from your opponent's graveyard to a Time Thief Xyz monster you control as Xyz material. Once again, we run into the same restriction as Adjuster, where you can only use one effect per turn and only once that turn. This is the other good foolish target for Adjuster to send to the graveyard. Time Thief Retrograde is the last spell or trap for the archetype, which is a counter trap which can negate a spell or trap and attach it to a Time Thief Xyz monster you control. It's a simple but strong effect, which is a great card to get with Winder. Now, I'm going to be moving on to the extra deck. While they do have another main deck monster, this is deliberate and we will get back to it later. First off, we have Time Thief Redoer. It is the boss monster of the archetype with 2400 attack and 2000 defense. During the standby phase, it can steal the top card of your opponent's deck as tax for just existing. It has the quick effect to detach material and apply the appropriate effects depending on what kinds of material you detached. If you detached a monster, it banishes itself until the end phase where it returns to the field. If you detach a spell, it draws a card, and if you detach a trap, it, non-targeting, places one face-up card your opponent controls on top of their deck. The quick effect is a hard once per turn, but the standby phase effect is not, which means you can steal 3 cards from the top of your opponent's deck per turn. The quick effect also determines its effect on resolution, which means yes, it can get stopped by Ash Blossom, but it does allow you to give Redoer extra material before the effect resolves, after which it can then detach them for the right effects. This is relevant because of Time Thief Perpetua, which has 1900 attack and 2500 defense. During the standby phase, you can detach an Xyz material to special summon a Time Thief monster from your graveyard, and it has the quick effect to give another Time Thief Xyz monster you control one Time Thief card from your deck to it as Xyz material. Both effects of Perpetua are hard once per turns, so this card is for setup and consistency, as well as more standby phase shenanigans. And with that we come to their last extra deck monster, Time Thief Double Barrel. It has 2200 attack and defense, with only one effect, which is when your opponent activates a card or effect, detach materials from this card and apply the appropriate effects. If you detach a monster, it gains 400 attack permanently. If you detach a spell, you steal a monster until the end of the turn, and if you detach a trap, you negate a monster's effects on the field for the turn. It's a hard once per turn, none of the effects target, however it is a responsive card your opponent needs to do something to get it to trigger, and that makes Redoer the better option most of the time to make than this card. Now let's step for a moment into a short combo segment. This will give you some small, pure Time Thief combos that can be used to establish a basic board. And hopefully those give you a brief understanding of what Time Thieves aim to do with their own cards. They want to set up Redoer at the bare minimum, and possibly get Retrograde or Adjuster on the field as well, depending on what your hand is like. This is what I've come up with as a basic template for Time Thieves, with a few non-archetypal cards which are normally just worth playing. The non-archetypal cards I've included which are just worth playing are Divine Arsenal, AA Zeus, because it is the boss monster for all Xyz decks, Allure of Darkness, because all of your monsters are dark monsters, and the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine, because it is basically another level 4 monster turn 1, which is a good extender, and it's a trap card which gives Time Thief Redoer arguably its best effect. As for the ratios, Regulator, Winder and Adjuster are all immediate 3-ofs. They are your best main deck monsters as good starters and extenders, which provide excellent setup for your combos. Bezelship and Chronocoder are 2 to 3-ofs. You need more names. Having your 1-off Bezelship either banished or stuck under an Xyz monster is a problem. Startup is a 3-of to help with consistency and summoning level 4 monsters to make your Xyz monsters. And the Graveyard effect is pretty easy to set up. Time Thief Hack is at the very least a 1-of. The stat boost is cool, but the protection for the turn they are Xyz summoned is really strong, and at least one because it is both searchable and not a combo piece. Time Thief Flyback is most often a 2-of, but 3 is fine. It will normally attach the second Flyback if using the on-field effect, and its disruptive power is quite handy to have. Retrograde is also at least a 1-of. It's a strong disruptive tool, but it is not a combo piece, and again it is searchable. Every Time Thief Xyz is worth playing, with the ratios varying depending on how many non-archetypal tools you want. 2 Redoer and Perpetua is the minimum. Redoer is the boss monster, and Perpetua allows you to make Redoer more effective and more often. Double Barrel is worth playing at least at 1. Startup gives either Redo or Double Barrel all 3 effects from 1 card, and Double Barrel's effects are good, but they are just responsive instead of proactive. And after talking about the template and all the Time Thief ratios, let's hop back to that one monster I haven't talked about. Time Thief Temporal. I have not talked about this card because I don't really understand its place in the deck. It is another Time Thief name and it is spot removal, but it's only until the end phase. In theory it's good, but I don't see the synergy that's supposed to be happening with it as much. It's very possible that I'm missing something completely obvious and synergistic, but whatever that may be, I don't see it, so I don't personally run it. All that said, it is another Time Thief name, a dark monster, and a tool for certain scenarios which is searchable, so running one should be fine. Now this template I've shown you is pretty far from a complete deck. Less than half the extra deck is full, and just over half the main deck. Time Thieves are normally played alongside other archetypes, more often than played pure, and the other archetypes are normally the main build for the deck. With that, let me show you the 2 primary variants that I play of Time Thieves. The first is a Go First Trap Monster Hybrid variant, with whatever toolbox I happen to like at the time. Trap monsters hold a bit of a special place for me, and they help fulfill the best effects of Redo and Double Barrel. The other variant I play is a Go First or Go Second deck, which is more monster heavy, and focused on just making as many Xyz monsters as possible. It is quite fun, interactive, and vulnerable to Nibiru in the extreme. All the dangers are Dark attribute, which makes Allure of Darkness easier to run, and they both provide draw power as well as free bodies on the field. Dogman's discard effect can come up since Time Thieves are not the strongest of monsters stat-wise. Those reasons, plus giving me rank 7 access, are how I've justified running them. Raid Raptor Strangle Lanius is a free summon, level 4, and only locks you into dark monsters for the rest of the turn. The other effect doesn't particularly come up, but if you have any of your Time Thieves under Zeus, it could. Singing Lanius is just another easy summon level 4 monster, again dark. And Raider's Wing isn't basically extra copies of Bezel Ship. It's dark, it's got 2000 defense, it can summon itself from the hand as well as the graveyard in the same way that Bezel can, and it can give the summoned monster targeting protection as long as it is a dark Xyz monster. Astral Karibo, while not being a dark monster, is half the material for any number monster in the game. You can special summon it from your hand by revealing a number monster from your extra deck, and it becomes the same level as the rank of that number monster. If you use it to Xyz summon a number monster, it gives that number monster destruction protection from battle and card effects while it is attached as material. This effect does get negated if the monster's effects get negated with something like Infinite Impermanence, but it is still very powerful. Xyz Import is a really good removal quick play spell. As for the rank 4 toolbox we've got going, we have a Utopia package which gives Utopia the Lightning 2 activations instead of the 1. Malevolent Sin is a rank 4 number monster which just gets bigger. Ice Beast Zerofine is a blanket negate for face-up cards your opponent controls, which is playable here because of the Raid Raptors. It also gains 300 attack per face-up card when it uses the effect. Steel Swarm Roach is a special summon negate versus level 5+ monsters. Harmonizer Gradiel is called by the grave on legs and somewhat difficult to out, on top of being a number monster. Diabolosis is another number option which I've always liked, a little bit less so with it being the problem card in a cached era, but regardless. And Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops is a different kind of boss monster. With this build it's not impossible to summon, and its own effect allows you to summon back some of the materials used for its summon. The side deck is level 4 dangers in case the rank 7s are ineffective or being a lower level than 5 is relevant, because it sometimes is. Dishonest because, again, Time Thieves are not the strongest monsters, also it's a level 4 dark monster. Sneaky Sea is a hand trap I think has potential, but is pretty untested, and it's probably the most likely thing to be cut from the side deck. Another Zeus because sometimes you just need it. Big Eye is an alternative rank 7 number monster, and Evil Swarm Nightmare is a non-once per turn Book of Moon. That tells you about how I play and why, hopefully. So let's go over some other cards which you can play. So, starting off our tech card list, we have Nemesis Corridor and Luna the Dark Spirit, which are both easy to summon level 4 monsters. Slightly different methods. Nemesis Corridor returns a banished card to your deck, and Luna the Dark Spirit banishes a dark monster from your graveyard. Xyz Slydolphin summons from hand on the summon of an Xyz monster, and if an Xyz monster is summoned while this card is in the graveyard, you can attach to that monster as material. Summoner Monk also gives more consistency to making rank 4s, being able to discard a spell to special summon a level 4 monster from your deck, and it does not negate its effects. Astraltopia is an easy to summon level 4 monster. As long as you control an Xyz monster, you can special summon it from, and you can then send one other card from your hand or field to the grave to add an Xyz spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Generation Force does the same thing as Astraltopia, it adds an Xyz card from your deck to your hand. Xyz Align gives you just about whatever rank you want, or can disrupt your opponent's plays by changing their levels, because it is a quick play spell and you just need to target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including 1 monster you control. Overlay Network means that in a slightly roundabout way you can add your opponent's cards to your hand after stealing them with Redoer. It also can recycle monsters from your graveyard. Galaxy Wave is a continuous spell which just burns your opponent for each Xyz summon you conduct. Stoic Challenge is a way to make Redoor a potentially game-ending card. The Xyz monster that it's equipped to gains 600 attack per Xyz material, and any battle damage your opponent takes from it is doubled, but its effects cannot be activated. During your opponent's end phase, send this card to the graveyard. When this card leaves the field, destroy the equipped monster. Xyz Territory is a field spell which provides all of your Xyz monsters 200 attack and defense times their rank during damage calculation only. It also has a self-protection effect, where you can detach an Xyz material from a monster you control if it would be destroyed by a card effect. Xyz Reflect is a slightly worse retrograde, but also slightly more generic. It's not just limited to spells and traps, but the effect has to target a face-up Xyz monster in order to negate the card. Raid Raptor's Phantom Knight's Claw is a monster negate counter trap. Xyz Block is a slightly more generic version of the Raid Raptor's Phantom Knight's Claw, and works slightly better if you're not actually playing any Raid Raptor Xyz monsters, because it is not once per turn. Mind Over Matter is basically Solemn Judgment, the only difference being you need to tribute a Psychic type monster to use it, which means any of your Xyz monsters, Time Thief Winder or Time Thief Adjuster. And as for the rank 4s that you can use, you have just about every generic rank 4 at your disposal. You have everything from Crazy Box to Raider's Knight. Time Thieves also have access to number F0 Utopic Draco Future. This card requires 3 Xyz monsters with the same rank except number monsters, but you can also Xyz summon this card using number F0 Utopic Future, which requires 2 Xyz monsters with the same rank except number monsters. And the reward for doing this is an Xyz monster which cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate the activation, then if that monster is on the field, gain control of it. And one last card I think is worth mentioning, which can combo with Astral Karibo quite well, is Galaxy Queen's Light. It's a normal spell which targets a level 7 or higher monster you control, and all other monsters you control become that level, which means that Astral Karibo, Galaxy Queen's Light, can change your entire field to any level you want as long as it's 7 or higher. And with that, hopefully you have a brief guide as to how Time Thieves play and or work. Anyway, I have been Cat Monarch. Thank you all very much for watching, and hope to see you again sometime soon. Bye for now.